let's try that again. Take two.
You're on.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. I know it's a little warm in here, but it's worth it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're going to have a good time tonight. We're going to have a very good time tonight. Before I go, hello, how are you? How lucky am I? Twice in such a short amount of time. That's very cool. Before I begin, I just want to mention that over the summer, normally I will not have either July or August's Enlightenment Power Group here because we tend to be busy, we tend to be on vacations and so on. So I'll take 1 month off and let you guys go and do something other than spend your evening with me. But I am going to keep the dates on this summer. And what I'm doing is I'm going to, instead of doing just an Enlightenment Power Group like I would normally do, I'm going to continue the series that I started a month ago, Making Discoveries. And what that is ad hoc, I'm calling it Spirituality 101. It's really about taking what I've discovered in the last 10 years and simplifying the concept of what are the phases of enlightenment. Not only what are they, but what you feel like when you haven't hit that particular step yet, and how you feel when you have integrated that step. Because if you are not aware of what's possible, it's very hard to set your compass in that direction to know that there's a new opening that can be there for you. And because my process of discoveries was always accidental, I never knew where I was going next. If I knew where I was going, I could have set my compass to it sooner, and there's a good possibility that I could have gotten there with a lot less pain and a lot less disconnect and a lot less what we perceive as suffering, right? So what I want to do is say, now that I've experienced things, I don't know where I am in the scheme of human versus soul, but I do know that I'm a little more soul than many, many, many people I meet who are still struggling with being human. So if I know that I'm farther along than many, then let me share with you what that looks like, because then you too can say, that's how I want to feel, that's what I want my perspective to be, and I can see that there's doable steps to get there. So now you can set your compass to that destination and make that your aim. Because half the journey in anything is setting an intention. And once you set an intention of having something be a destination for you, or you're curious about it, or you want to enjoy the feelings that come along with that goal or that destination, then you're halfway there. You want to continue to follow your curiosity to realize and integrate that particular phase of enlightenment. But just the declaration of your intention becomes the means to allow the infinite wisdom of the universe and your guides to give you specific steps and signs to get you there. And that's what the universe does for us. It helps us along when we're in the know of asking for the help. When we don't know that assistance or that guidance is available to us, and we're operating alone in this vacuum of belief that we are finite, life is quite hard. So part of the byproduct of making discoveries, of integrating the phases of enlightenment, is that life gets easier. And had I known that 20 years ago, I would have done this a lot sooner. If I had known it 30 years ago, I would have done it a lot sooner. But I postponed it for a long time, and I don't want you guys to postpone it, because life is really too short. And that's what we're doing here anyway, is we're trying to get these soulful discoveries under our belt while we're here. We don't want to wait until we die and then know them all, because it's a different kind of knowingness if you postpone that integration until you return home. Knowing them on earth is very different than knowing them when you go home. And that's the goal. The goal here is to make these discoveries while we're in the bodies that we're in, and while we're having the lives that we're having right now and living. Okay? So with those 2 dates, July 11th and then the second Wednesday in August, you'll still come here. The setup will be a little bit different. And after the event, you'll get a video of the day and the day will also be interactive. So anyone that's viewing online will be able to ask questions, and you'll be able to ask questions as well. The specific topic for the July event is we're going to be looking at what I just touched on a little bit, which is that there is a higher power. There is an infinite consciousness. There is a meaning to life. And how do you connect with that? What do you feel like when you're connected? What do you feel like when you're not connected? How can you squeeze out the disconnected days and allow more of being connected? This is what we're going to be talking about on that day. And I do believe that if I had to say order of significance in the phases of enlightenment, I'm going to say that this is probably the most important phase of enlightenment, because it basically is your first step into understanding that there's more to life than simply the human experience. When you only believe that the human experience and your day-to-day stuff is what matters, if you believe that life is random, that there's nothing more meaningful or significant than your brief time in these shoes, you tend to have a lot of discord and unhappiness and struggle and strife, and things are a fight. You're fighting for resources, you're fighting for love, you're fighting for a feeling of self-worth, you're fighting. But when you realize you're not alone, you've never been alone, that there is this amazing energy that you can tap into in so many different ways, and you can experience it and have it there by your side 24/7, the struggle begins to dissolve because you don't have to go it alone. And that love, that loving source, has no conditions. Humans put conditions on love, but non-physical sources of energy don't have any conditions on their love for you. So it's a very different experience to experience that kind of connectedness than it is to experience love just with a human. Even the most enlightened humans are going to have some kind of personal identification with the human experience. They're going to have some egoic aspect of their journey. So their love is not going to be purely without condition. Does that make sense to you? We don't want to be conditional in our love, but we can't help it because we are a composite of all the experiences that we've had. And a lot of people through the course of our journey have separated us from our remembrance of how fully lovable and important and significant that we are. So if you're struggling to get back to remembering how lovable and significant and important and special and unique and unlimited you are, then you're going to have an agenda in your interaction with other people. Therefore, a side effect of that is that there's going to be some conditions on how you are able to love yourself and the people around you. Does everyone understand that concept? It's not a bad thing. We're not flawed. That's the important thing, is that we are not flawed. We are a composite of the experiences that we've had while being here on this planet. Good? All right, cool. What? Okay. We got a yes from the celebrity guest in the back, so I feel good to go. I feel good to go. Thank you, celebrity guest in the back. I'll let you have your anonymity tonight by not actually mentioning your name, okay? Oh, and I didn't want to forget, but would you like to share what's going on with American Heart this month? No, I'm good.
Killed by the American Heart Association. No.
Cut, take two.
We had a phenomenal event yesterday. We had a golf event and a tennis event.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was really, really, really awesome. But one of the things that has happened is that we're down 2 staff, and one person was asked to leave, but the other person is in the hospital because of a cardiac incident.
Oh,
And she's been in the hospital now, it's over 3 weeks.
Wow.
And it was pretty serious. She had an abdominal aortic aneurysm that bled,
wow.
and only 10% of people survive from it. And it has been torture. So with all of the advancements that we made with heart disease and stroke and everything else, here we have somebody working here.
That's
and
amazing.
Did not eat, just didn't feel well one day. We're at an event, she was getting pain, and she, thank God, listened to her intuition.
Ah, wow.
And had she not listened to her intuition, and had she not spoken, had she listened to her husband, she might not.
No
be-
names included.
Not a name, may not be here today, but she knew something was wrong. So, and I didn't even know I was even gonna say this. So, what we're doing here is so very important, because your body gives you little clues and little red flags that tell you, hey, what's going on? And I don't know why she had this. I don't know why that manifested
Right.
here, what's going on in her. But had she not listened to her intuition, had she not gone to the doctor, had she not worked here perhaps, she would not have gotten that message. So, listen to what your soul tells you, listen to your intuition, and develop it, and know that it's talking to you.
Right, yes,
At all times.
totally,
So,
totally, completely.
it's been difficult, it's been very difficult, and I'm trying to listen to my intuition, simmer down. But, and I will eventually simmer down. Thank you for letting me vent.
That's what we're here for.
We're doing good things.
That's
But
making
we're
everybody
always-
think about something in their lives. You're giving us pause to ponder. Well, I haven't mentioned this in a really long time, but one of the reasons that Michelle and I work so well together and have since the very second that we met was because even though she represents American Heart Association, and oftentimes any kind of a organization, charitable organization that's focused on body disharmony, they tend to focus on the mechanics of it and the medicine of it. But the second that Michelle and I met, I understood that the philosophy in this chapter is mind, body, spirit. And it doesn't really feel like it's a complete opportunity for us to make discoveries and to manage our own health and our own healthfulness if we're not taking into account the mind and the body and the spirit, that they are all interactive, that they support one another, and to dissect them and only treat one without the other, it might give us the alleviation of symptoms, but it's not going to give us wholeness. So when I realized that we were so much on the same page and that this chapter is run very much in accordance with those principles, I said, this is going to be a very symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, no, it really.
Yeah, there's no
And
doubt.
I've been going out into the community and really speaking to faith-based organizations, and all of the pastors are really into this. I mean, they are so into, you need to take care of yourself.
Yes.
You need to do this. You need to do it. You could listen all you want, you could say whatever force is up there is gonna take you. Well, you know what? You gotta walk the walk. You gotta make those steps, so.
Yeah. And it's important, even aside from heart health, just health in general, it's important to remember that you've had seeds planted in you from the time you were little. Suggestions that were made, suggestions about family health matters, societal, environmental. These seeds, you are not necessarily going to be completely aware and how complexly they can become rooted in you and what can trigger their emergence. So there's no such thing as anything being random, but it's not as clear as science likes us to think it is, that your mom had that, you're going to get that. You have to do this to not get that. It's not that clear because it's not taking into account the energy of our perceptions, the energy of our thoughts, our beliefs, our attitudes, our expectations. What we're telling ourselves amidst all those seeds that have been planted about body disharmony and vulnerability, but what we're doing with it is going to give the messages to our body about what does emerge and how our body is communicating with us based on those seeds that are planted within us. And that's a very important thing, is to really acknowledge that we're more powerful than we think we are. And it doesn't mean, again, I don't ever want to leave anyone believing that they're flawed. No one is flawed. If you have an illness, chronic, temporary, or anything, it's not because of you doing something wrong. It's because you were surrounded by misinformation at some point that got to take root because of some other misinformation that you got. the opportunity for your body to communicate with you is to unearth those seeds of mistruth and get back to being harmonious with your mind and your body and your spirit, and starting to allow that to emerge, the harmony. It's so interesting that we started with this today, because what the topic was that I had gotten from the guides today is to talk about our lifespan. And I think it's so interesting that that's
And
what
I-
we were going to
and
talk
I
about
said
tonight.
today, somebody said to me, my girlfriend, I spoke to her this morning, and she said, so Karen's coming tonight, because she lives in Carolina. I said, yeah. I said, but she'll say something that we just like, we'll connect on, and that's it. Because it's always that way. But
That's so funny.
dis-ease
Dis-ease.
is what, that causes all this stuff, so disharmony, dis-ease, so.
Dis-ease.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of, I've had a few speeches this week, so some of you have already heard the story. But I like to use myself as an example, right? So we would perceive this as a body disharmony, right?
She's giving us the pinky.
However, I actually don't feel like it, like it's a body disharmony. Does it hurt? Is it broken? Yeah. Is it a mess? A little bit. But the story behind it, I find it interesting, and I find it kind of uplifting more than depleting. Because first of all, when I was a kid, I did not like to be treated like a girl, right? I guess I just didn't like the implication of assignment, right? Treat me like a guy, treat me like a girl, treat me like both, I don't care. But don't assume I'm a girl because I'm a girl. I didn't like that, all right? So I had some resistance to it. So I did things that were not always feminine. And I continue to do things that might not be that feminine, which is like cutting down trees, building walls, moving 5 yards of dirt, using my favorite kind of day is when I can use a Sawzall all day long until I'm vibrating. So I have scars, I have injuries, and I didn't get them by falling off a pair of heels, right? So my injuries have never really bothered me because I feel like they're earned, and I think it's reinforcement with the universe. Do not classify me as anything, okay? Because I might not be that thing. So what happened here was, much to the dismay of some people that we live with, I like to play extreme indoor sports with my son. And we've been doing it for a really long time. They don't make sense. They are dangerous. And they can wreak havoc with the material world, like windows and statues and walls. But we do it anyway. So we always have. So he had a flag football injury, and it was healing really nicely. But then he and I go at the extreme sport, and he's like, oh my gosh, it was feeling so good, but now, Mom, it's not. So 2 days later, oh, it's feeling so good, but now it's not. Well, this is going on for weeks. Now I'm at the point, like, I am not a good mother. I am clearly re-injuring my kid's thumb. This does not qualify as good parenting. But I'm not going to stop because I like it, okay? So I got my priorities. So what happens is we're playing the extreme sport, still being a bad parent and a bad homeowner, and he nailed the ball so hard that I reached out to keep it from breaking a window, so we didn't get in trouble, and I took it all in my finger, and I think I actually broke it in like 2 places. But within a day, he and I were both able to see, I can't play extreme sports right now, clearly. I'm giving him a month, at least, to heal. So I am now a good mother again.
There you go.
And the reason why it worked out so beautifully is because we counted up the 20 digits we have, and we ranked them in order of importance. And we realized that my left pinky is the 5th least important digit that I own. So it's a very small sacrifice for me to give up an insignificant pinky in order to be a good mother, right? So I don't feel any disharmony. I feel like it all worked out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
What
That
was
was-
the ball?
Lacrosse.
Just curious what kind of
That
ball you're
sounds like
using
hard rubber
inside.
It's a hard. That one's a hard rubber football, but it's not a football. This one's a hard rubber football that he throws very, very, very powerfully. Yeah. So that's it. Oh, and then, I forgot the good news. That's all good news, but here's the really good news. Because now I'm not the one that stopped the extreme sport. He still wanted to play, right? So we made up an extreme indoor sport with feet only. And guess what we do?
Oh, man.
We persevere. Yeah. I always wanted a padded room in my house, not for the reason a lot of people wanted a padded room, but just for preservation of resale value of the home.
My neighbors had one of those.
Did they? It's a really good idea.
They
Really
don't
good
want
idea. But anyway, so but at least you could still see that it's not random, right? The key is that I don't get sick. I haven't been sick in 10 years, but I guess I'm still allowing myself to experience injuries when they're appropriate. And insignificant because it's the 5th least important digit. All right, so anybody have any questions or thoughts about anything so far? We good? We're good? Okay.
Yeah, what are you going to do when Brett goes to college?
You're going to have to come over and be my partner, okay? I don't know, I just might have to have some more kids, I guess. You know? Yeah. You want to be my kid? All right. That's fine. I'm fine with
We can
that.
all rotate in and out.
Yeah. I'll figure it out.
Both of us at that point.
Okay, I'll take the two of you. Take the two of you. There'll be lots of empty rooms in the mansion by then. So, but you gotta like to play.
Right, no comment.
Yeah, I'm up for anything. Well, I tell you one thing. I know a lot of people. They have empty nest syndrome when the last kid goes away to college. I don't anticipate that happening for me, only simply because my children don't fulfill my happiness. They are a happy addendum to my happiness, and there's a big, big, big difference. And that's why I think I'm going to be okay. As long as you come over and play, and you guys come over and live there, then I'm really going to be okay. And she's a really good cook, so it's going to work out well for all of us.
I knew you'd be fine. I was just kidding.
No, but it's always interesting to think about these things. Okay. All right. What I wanted, I was listening to Guides early today, and one topic that we generally don't talk about that much is lifespan, unless it's in the context of talking about a person and their specific lifespan. But I want to talk about the lifespan. There's a few things that are said or assumed out there, and let's bust some myths tonight, okay? Let's talk about the lifespan from the perspective of universal truth. One of the things that I often hear is, well, it's because I'm a little older and I know better, and with age comes wisdom, okay? Those, scratch them off your list. They're totally not true. They're not true. They're not. Cross them off the list. I have hung out with some damn smarter 3-year-olds than 73-year-olds, and I would rather spend time with the 3-year-olds than some of those 73 or 93-year-olds. Wisdom does not come with age. Age comes with age, okay? That's the only thing that comes with age. Wisdom comes with intention, with opening the knocks on the door that the universe gives us, interpreting the things that happen along the way, learning how to look at life through the lens of love, learning how to peel away the masks and layers of your own childhood experiences. These are the things that can lead to wisdom. Aging does not necessarily lead to wisdom. Okay? And I think that's an important premise, because so many of the other myths that come about aging are myths as well. And one of them is the idea of the aging process. If you were to look back at even something like the history of the 1-minute mile at the Olympics, and you look back in the 1920s, how fast was the Olympic athlete gold medalist running that mile in the 20s in comparison to the last Olympics? It's a huge difference. And when they were having conversations about the broken record in the 20s, They were not thinking it was humanly possible for us to be breaking the records that we're breaking now. And we might even make suppositions that we've broken every record that we can as far as human speed. But if we make that supposition, then we end that leg of our journey. So it's actually suppositions that change our relationship with our body as the chronological clock keeps ticking. And those assumptions become a thing. And when you buy into those assumptions, just like the messages of the seeds of body disharmony that were planted when we were younger and are still planted, aging seeds that are planted within us will grow into a measure of our expectations. So does it mean that a machine does not break down, that a machine does not need repair? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. But it does mean that since we have so much influence in our individual lifespan, and also, as you can see, in the collective lifespan, since we have so much influence, then don't we have as much influence in the relationship that we have with our body and the aging process? So there might be a day when we come back to this earth and everyone's living an average of 130, 140, 200. We don't really know. But there might be such a huge advancement in the way that we connect our minds to our bodies and rejuvenate cellular structure and reverse disease or aging processes that maybe even 200 is a small number. We don't really know, do we? But right now, we believe that the average lifespan is 73 and a half. So as long as that's our belief system, we're going to be messaging our bodies, okay guys, remember how you felt at 10, you got 60 more years in average, let's divide the difference, this is going to happen here, this is going to happen here, this is going to happen here, because we're going to be exiting this machine when its useful life is over, right? You're doing this without knowing if you don't know not to do it. So I remember the first time I saw this process, I was 39, and a couple of years ago. So I was 39, and I, out of the blue, I never got off my tiny hiney in my entire life to exercise, but I decided I wanted to start to run. And I ran, but because I'd never run before, I had to ask the opinion of people that were runners, right? Because I don't want to mess this thing up. We had to put in one foot in front of the other at a certain rate. So I asked some runners, like, is there anything I need to know? And every single runner told me, every one of them, you know what, you're 39. If you haven't been running already, it's probably not a good time to start because your knees really start to give out at 39 or around 40. And I'm like, oh, wow, that sucks. So I made the right decision sitting for the last 40 years because I didn't wear them out. Maybe I have 40 good years in my knees because I've never used them up until now. So the minute I heard like the third suggestion of that, I went out for a run, and what happens? My knee hurts. My right knee hurts. And I'd been running already before I started to ask advice, and my knee never hurt, and I never thought about my knees. All of a sudden, my right knee hurts. And I'm like, oh, they're right. This is horrible. I can't believe it. Let me go sit down. And I had one of those epiphany moments. I sat down, and I was sitting and sitting and sitting, and I'm like, now, you know what? This really pisses me off because if I tell my knee now that it's not going to serve me because it's 39, what am I going to be telling it when I'm 78, right? So I actually out loud said, knee, you had a little blip there, but we're in this together. Let's try running. What's the worst that can happen? It's going to be great. We're all gonna feel better. Let's give it a try. Partners, partners, all right? And now I've been running a long time, 18 months, and I've never had another problem with my knee since that day. And I recognize, because of that history that I have with it, that I made sure that I didn't continue that conversation with my body, all right? So by the time I was in my 40s and doing things around the house, I really felt healthier and more fit than when I was doing things when I was in my 20s or in my teens. So I didn't experience what was supposed to be the deterioration of the machine because I really didn't buy into it. I also remember at the time thinking, Jack LaLanne owes us a long life. He cannot die young because he has shown us a different way. He's given us hope. He's given us a belief system that we have a large measure of influence over our own longevity, right? And the guy, he was really great. He must have caught the wavelength that I was putting out there because he just kept living and living and living and living. And I'm like, thank you, Jack. Thank you, Jack. And he did die a fit old man. And I'm very, very appreciative of it. Now, is there someone else that could have been a fitness instructor and died at 60? Yeah, but you know what the one thing that differentiated Jack LaLanne? If you watched him, it was a little goofy and fun, but you watch him, he believed in what he was doing.
Yeah.
He believed that he had this relationship with his body. He did. He wasn't doing it to be disciplined. He wasn't doing it to lose weight. He wasn't doing it to fight the machine. He was doing it because he believed in the good health results that would come out of honoring his body in that way. And the byproduct is he lived to be a fit old man. So you get to see over and over and over again that there are these links that work. When I started doing what I do, and I would read articles, especially biographies, and I would hear like the author's explanation about why someone succeeded at anything, whether it's basketball or music or had a college named after them, whatever it is. I would read the explanation from the author, and I would always be able to intuit whether the explanation was accurate or not. Because some of the biographies are factual. He was born here, she was raised there, her mother did that, she had a sister, she had a cat, and therefore she did this great and awesome, wonderful thing, right? So some of them are very factual, but they don't add up. You're not telling me how this person did this, right? You're just telling me the facts. But then every now and then there's going to be an intuitive biographer, and that biographer is going to get into the attitudes, the perceptions, the feelings, the beliefs, the changes in focus, the change in what they're looking at, and then they're going to be able to tell the true story. Why can two people with such a similar path have such incredibly different outcomes? It's not because of the facts. The facts don't matter. What matters is what that person is doing with their mind, their body, their spirit, their energy. What is their belief? What is their attitude? What is their perception? What are their limits? How are they trying to overcome being separated from self-love or love of anything else? That's where you get the real answer. I always thought it would be very cool if we could put together a questionnaire, and that questionnaire would get us into the insights of how people get to experience some of the successes that we admire. Again, it doesn't matter if it's music or art or literature or athletics, whatever it is, if we respect that person's achievement, let's go through this questionnaire. I don't really care that much where you were born, well, maybe a little bit, but because it tells me something about the influence of your community, right? But I don't know, what I really want to know is how'd you feel? How'd you feel when you were in elementary school? How'd you feel about your home life? How'd you feel in relation to your your siblings? What got you fired up? What made you feel depleted? How did you persevere after something knocked you down? What did you do if you didn't feel welcome or supported? What did you do if you felt isolated or inferior? What did you do if you were abused? What did you do if you were neglected? What did you do if you were hungry? What did you do if you had a happy childhood and you had everything coming to you that you wanted? How did you motivate yourself? What lane did you perceive as making you able to do this thing that it is that you did? What were you thinking? What were you thinking? Because that's where we're going to find out where success comes from. And by success, I'm only saying that it's a person that we respect and they value their own achievement and it created happiness in their life. Not success that has any external group ideas of it being a worthy achievement. And that's what we want to look at, is what's going on behind the person. What makes someone say, I can do this? What makes someone not do it or not try? You know, that's what this is all about, is finding that core, finding that spark within us to discover what it is that we are powerful in. And that's the collective conversation to have. That's what to put in the biography. That's the story to tell. At one time, when I started this part of my journey, I can't remember why I had to attend a meeting of the National Speakers Association in the city. I don't remember why I went, but the speaker was a renowned home organizer. So she was on lots of TV shows, she had a brand, she had products, she was soaring. Everybody knew who she was. And I went to see the speaker, and I wasn't there to see the speaker, I was there for another reason and I can't remember what it was. But there were like 50 to 60 people in the audience. The topic was how to tap into the media to get your brand out there. So she was going to tell her tricks of the trade about how she became such a mega superstar so that the 50 to 60 people in the audience could have the same success that she had. So I sat there and I listened, and she was really an inspiring speaker. She was really very good, very personable. And I found over the hour or two, I found myself getting very sad for everybody in the room. And I wasn't as enlightened as I am today. I wouldn't be sad for people in the room today. But back then I felt very sad for them. And when I was leaving, I'm like, why do I feel so sad for everybody? And it occurred to me, because she's not telling them about the spark in her. She's not telling them who she is. She's saying, contact this, research this, make that phone call, write this letter, start the letter out with that, use adjectives. She is not saying who she is. She's not talking about the fire in her. She's not telling you that she was unstoppable, that no one was going to tell her no, right? So everybody's sitting there taking notes, and I gotta do this, and I gotta do that, and I gotta do this. They're all gonna go home, and if they're a little motivated, they're gonna do this stuff. And where are they gonna be in 3 months? And where are they gonna be in 6 months? They're gonna be exactly where they were when they walked into that room.
They're still gonna feel empty.
Yes, because they don't know what's in them. They don't know what makes them individual, what makes them unique, what's the fire in them. And that's the key. That's the key about our lifespan. It doesn't matter if you find it out when you're 78 or if you find it out when you're 8. But it's important to find it out. What is it about you? What is it about you? It doesn't have to be something that changes the world. It doesn't have to be something that everybody knows your name because of. But it's a matter of finding out what it is that's your signature, what it is that makes you so special, what is it that makes you unique in this body, in this time, at this moment. And when you find that, all the other stuff about aging and disease and injury, they just start to dissolve. They start to become a backdrop that other people are concerned about that doesn't even come into your lane anymore. Because you have this commitment to being unstoppable. You might hit a brick wall. You might make a wrong turn. You might feel like you did all this for nothing. You might feel you have to scrap the plan and start over. But all you're really doing is exploring another way to not get your shine out there. You just got to explore again. There's another way. It becomes unstoppable when you find out the thing that makes you you. Yeah.
I was listening to an audiobook on the drive down today, and they talk about this with finding your passion, and they phrased it in a much different way that really brings out what you're saying. Instead of saying what's your passion, because it kind of becomes rote, it's what makes your heart sing. And that like really drives you
Yes.
to find that spark within that's
Yes.
more than just you're passionate about
Yes.
sports or
Yes.
wrecking your house with your son, you know. It's, what makes you alive? What makes your heart sing?
The people that know me in this room know that that's a phrase I use almost every day. What makes your heart sing? What makes your heart sing? Totally. Because there are things that we could be curious about or even interested in or even excited about, but it's still not that thing that makes us feel like this is unstoppable. No one can tear me away from this thing. Even if it's not logical, it's not practical, doesn't even seem to be doable, no one is going to tear me away from this thing. And I have to tell you, in the lane that I'm in for the past 10 years doing what I do, this is unstoppable for me. It is unstoppable. No one can tear me away from this. No one can tear me away from it. If it happens one day that I am not that intrigued, if it doesn't make my heart sing, I'm perfectly open to another bend in the road. It's not that I'm resisting it, because I'm perfectly okay with that. Although my 5th grade teacher might say that I can't commit to anything, but I'm okay. Right now, I don't feel like it's going to happen. I feel like that this is it, because this is the thing that makes my heart sing. It is the thing that makes my heart sing. And it's not about judging that thing either. It's not by saying I have to reach more people, or I have to do something more, I have to be more grand or more bold, or fix the earth or fix the people or save this or save that. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It's just finding your thing. It's finding your thing. That's what it's about. It's finding your thing. One of the very heady experiences I had when I first learned how to communicate with souls without bodies was that a lot of souls that had been well known and apparently, had a lot of achievement on earth, they would come into me and they would talk. So I was not ready for that, because my self-esteem dial was way, 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 way down, right? So I didn't want or expect or feel worthy of these souls when they came in to communicate with me. So I would spend a lot of time getting them to prove that they were who they were claiming to be. And Jeannie helped me out a lot. She would be my back-end researcher, constantly researching the evidence that I would get to prove the identity of the soul that was communicating with me. And what wound up happening was, number one, we found an amazing common thread among those who were communicating with me. And what it was through her research, we discovered that every one of these people, even though they came from all different arenas of life, whether it was politics or sports or science or music or television, each one of these had something in common that we could find somewhere within their body of work or their personal letters or their autobiography. We could find that they believed in the connection with the universe. They believed in intuition. They believed that they were connecting with some higher source. And I'm not talking about in a religious context whatsoever, but they understood that we are one and that we are co-creating our reality. And when I looked at the diversity of the souls that came in, and none of them I had particular interest in, so I knew I certainly wasn't pulling the fan card. Hey, you dead guy, I've always been a fan. Could you sign this record album for me? It wasn't a fan thing, because it really was some souls. I'm like, I wasn't even that keen on him. And I don't know why he wants to talk to me, because I really wasn't that keen on him. And that made the evidence really mount. But when we notice the truth of each one of them, understanding that there's more to life than just the linear, I got to see that the thread was they were coming into me because that's exactly what it was I was experiencing and knowing. I was separating from the concept of the finite human, and I was beginning to tap into the infinite, and I was moving away from the impossible and I was moving into the possible. But the reason I brought that up is because one of the things that they did over those first couple of years with an unbelievable amount of patience was that they helped me to realize I was worthy of communicating with them. Even though I didn't change a million lives, even though I didn't have my name on a billboard, even though I hadn't written the most coolly imagined song ever. Even though I didn't do anything like that, they helped me to understand that the soul of my being, who I am as an infinite presence, is worthy of communicating with high vibrational energies who were able to make a significant, notable difference on this planet. And what I recognize in what I do on Earth, in seminars and in sessions with people and in coaching, is that I'm working toward, through your guides, making sure you remember that too. I don't have a special lane. I have no gift. I have no gift. All I have is the core of me, the core of my soul, and an obsessive passion for figuring out how to strip away the masks and layers of being human and getting back to the core of who I am. But I am no more special than anyone in this room. I'm no more special than anyone on this planet. It has nothing to do with how big your reach is. It has to do with tapping into how powerful you are, how unique you are, how original you are. How boring would it be if we were all the same? Right? It would be so boring. It would be so boring. Much to the dismay of people, I've always tried to find somewhere where I could live that wasn't cold, right? But every place I go, I'm like, I can't live here. I can't live here. I can't live here. I can't live here. Within 24 hours, I'm like, I can't live here. I can't live here. I can't live here. I can't live here. And why is it I can't live in any of these places? Because they're so homogenous. Everybody looks alike, they talk alike, they dress alike, they pray alike, and I'm like, oh, it would drive me mad. It would drive me mad. I can't live like this. Give me something, right? I'm definitely not eating plain white pasta for breakfast, lunch, and dinner from now until the day I die. I'm not doing it. Just not doing it. So it's a matter of tapping in. It's like tap into this. And you find this, and when you find this, you will find your wisdom, you will find your happiness, you will find your joy, you will find that the span of your life is not about grieving the digits, but celebrating the years. I look back more at the things I don't have to deal with anymore, rather than looking forward to anticipating things that I'm not going to like. There's a lot of stuff I don't have to do anymore, and I'm kind of pretty happy about it, right? My son is confident, so if he asks me, Mom, if you could go back to high school and do it all over again, would you? And I'm like, sure, of course I would. If my high school consisted of one student, I would. But other than that, I wouldn't. But no, I don't tell it to him like that. But no, I don't want to do high school over. I mean, is there any environment? It's like a petri dish of uniformity. And if you don't fit in and look like the others, it's just not a very, very happy time for a lot of people. No, I don't want to do it over. Would I do it over knowing what I know now? Yeah, I would. Knowing what I know now, I would do it over for fun. And I would mess with people.
And they would learn.
I'm only kidding. But I like that some of that stuff that I don't have to do that anymore. And I find it exciting that there are going to be things that come up and things I don't have to be concerned about, things I don't have to spend an enormous amount of time getting done anymore that we do in our 20s and our 30s and our 40s. It's kind of nice. So I look forward to it. But there's another aspect of looking at the lifespan that I wanted to bring up tonight. And that is, our relationship to people that are in a different generation than us, okay? A lot of people still ask me, like, did you have any, like, psychic experiences before 9/11? Like, was it happening throughout your life, or was that really the first one? That was really the first one, but as I look back at the course of my life, I see that there were very, very intuitive moments, meaning that there was a part of me that was tapping into universal truth without necessarily knowing it. A lot of me was a big hot mess, but a part of me was tapping into something that was universally true, right? And I look back, there was I don't really remember the year, but it was before 9/11. I had this idea that I was noticing a trend where there was a gap between teenagers and people in their 70s and 80s, and I felt like the gap was widening. There wasn't as much extended family living nearby. People were relocating and living in different parts of the country and so on. And I thought, how nice would it be if I could get them in a room together, the teens and the 70 and 80-year-olds, and have them do something together so that they could get to see how awesome each other are and get the benefit of each other's perspective. So at the time, I happened to have met someone that had a PBS show. It was on Thursday nights, and I gave her a proposal, and PBS picked up on it, and before I knew, I was shooting the show, all right? But in order for the show to get picked up, it had to air on, they had something called Nifty Over 50 or something, I don't remember what it was. But that was the show that was going to air my program. So as soon as the producers and the egos came in, they said, well, if it's going to be 50 over 50 or whatever, I don't remember what it was. So if it's going to be on this show, then we shouldn't have the teenagers on. Let's just interview the old folk. And I'm like, all right. So we wound up doing an interview of only the older people. But it just like destroyed the whole point. It really just destroyed the whole point. So now I'm supposed to be showing to an audience that people over 70 are cool. Right? Well, don't you think it'd be nicer for a 17-year-old to say, hey, 77-year-old, you're really cool, and give them a hug at the end of the show? But I realized when I look back on that, I had something intuitive going on. If I recognize that there's a trend, I think the trend is even more divided than ever, but I recognize that there's some value in us interacting and staying connected to each other in a multi-generational way. So something got me fired up, and I might have even mentioned it briefly when we were here last month. But something got me really fired up, and not a lot gets me fired up like that. Like it doesn't feel like a peaceful firing up. I like to be at peace. But a rather high level of awareness client, I saw it came through. You know, if you have something on Facebook and it's getting a lot of attention, it automatically goes through your feed, right? So there was a hot post. And so I don't really look at the feed on Facebook at all. But when I open Facebook, whoever's there in that hot spot, I'll see your post. That's the only post I see every day. So his came up. And what it was a very vitriolic diatribe about snowflakes. And snowflakes is the new term for the softy 20-somethings. They can't do anything. They need blankets. We got to bring them, tea at 2, and and all this. They can't work 40 hours because they need extra time to get their work done. And that's what this concept of a snowflake is that people are talking about like crazy on the planet. And I read this post, and I'm like, this is a high level of awareness person writing this terrible thing that he's categorizing all 20-somethings as. And it really got me fired up. So in my mind, I started writing this month's essay about it because it took me some strength to not write on his feed, because I've always decided not to air an uncomfortable preference of mine on Facebook. If I can bring a dialogue to a happier place or introduce some other perspective, that's great. But on Facebook, you really can't do that. People are really apt to just defend their position and to, cut you down. So it's not a good place to bring enlightenment. I can do that on my own page, but I can't really do that on other people's pages. So I didn't write anything, but what I really thought about is, number one, I coach a lot of 20-somethings, a lot. And if I had to sit in a room with them and read this post, the only thing I would be doing is holding both of their hands and saying, oh my gosh, that's so not you. You're so incredible. Oh, I wish you could see you through your guide's eyes. I wish you could see you through my eyes. You know, and if you are having any challenges that maybe people weren't demonstrating 30 years, it's not because of you, it's because of your teachers and your parents and your older family members. It's your community, it's your politics, it's your media. You didn't do this. If you feel like you're not prepared to be bold and forceful and make your own lane right now, it's not your fault. It's their fault. So put the ownership back on them and let them see what they did. You suffocated, you smothered, you overprotected, you didn't let them go outside and play, you did not trust them, you put them in a bubble, you told them they were going to die of a disease if they shared a straw with their friend at school.
Or a cookie dough.
Or a cookie dough. Thank you. This is not your fault. This is their fault. So put it back on them and ask them to help give you back your power by taking all of this damn fear off the table. Let me know I'm capable. Let me know I'm strong. Let me know I can get things done. Let me try them. Let me ride my bicycle in the street. Let me. And if you let me do those things, I promise you will never have a criticism of me except that I'm cooler than you. That's the only criticism you'll ever have. Because if you even think that another generation is less than you, then you are an old fart and I will always be cooler than you. So the point is that every generation has such an individual experience that are very connected to exactly what they are experiencing. The way we set up the world for each new growing set of people is what they have to step into. They have new challenges. Those who are under 30 have a new set of challenges. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I grew up with a set of challenges. I had a pretty crummy childhood, but I would still rather have had the freedom to do my own thing and be self-reliant than to have to experience the anchors and the shackles that people who are under 30 often had to deal with. I don't want that. I don't want that sense of being afraid of the world, afraid of guns, afraid of food, afraid of breathing. I don't want that fear. How are you supposed to become the shine that's within you if everything is making you afraid? You didn't create the fears. You responded to the fears that were shoved down your throats by the people around you. So let's look in terms of how can we prepare every group of people for what the world is like for them. Our responsibility is to empower them to feel like they are safe, to feel like they are protected, to feel like they are powerful, to feel like they are worthy, to feel like they are unstoppable, to feel like we can peel away all of that mistruth that you were surrounded by when you were growing up. Let's get that peeled away. A lot of the 20-somethings that I coach, one of the things I help them understand is that your peer set needs beacons, because it's the effect that our fears have had on that group are so pronounced and so profound that they need beacons within their peer set. So to be a beacon means just pull off that stuff that we put on you. Let me help you get back to pulling that stuff off and get back to finding out that you are powerful. And if you look at a complaint about 30-somethings or 40-somethings or 50-somethings or 60-somethings or so on, peel away your complaint and say, why is that particular group identifying with something that may be challenging their own lives? What is it that we're not helping them to understand or to be free of? What is it that we're not helping them to understand is possible? How are we not handing them this amazing, open, beautiful, free, limitless canvas on which they can paint their reality, and then letting them go to it and stepping back and saying, if you need a little guidance, I'm here, but go for it. What are we not doing? What are we not doing for anyone? For anyone. And our role as beacons, we might not be the beacon for the 20-somethings, but maybe we will be, but our role is to live as if we know that everyone matters. So that lifespan has to do with quality of life, not numbers of years. And however many years you live, or however many years another person lives, or however many years a person has lived until you met them, that is what's important in their life right now. Where they are right now. In your lifespan, age does not matter. What matters is knowing what is important, finding the spark within you, feeling unstoppable at any age, knowing that you are supported, knowing that you are loved, knowing that anything is possible. And that's what life is all about. I'm always amazed because I've communicated with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of souls without bodies now. And sometimes I communicate with them minutes after they cross over. Sometimes they've been gone for 1,000 years. Sometimes they're incarnated in another body and I'm still communicating with their higher self. But what is amazing is that no one cares how many years they lived. It doesn't matter. It's not a significant measure of anything about the quality of a life. Whether they live for 3 days or 30 years or 300 years in that body, their view, our view, is what did I do in that time? What did I experience? What did I contribute? Not out of guilt, not out of shame, not out of must, should, had to, but out of here's the composite of what I experienced, here's the masks and layers that I had, how was I able to release them? How did I open the door to the knocks from the universe to get rid of another mistruth? How did I dissolve my earth amnesia to remember the truth of the power of who I am? How did I make my life better by learning to love myself again after others told me not to love myself? That's the measure of the value of my life. Not that I'm going to have a comparative, I did a good job, you did a bad job. We just have a comparative of how well we did given the circumstances that we faced. We have comprehension that, you know what, I did the best I could, even though I was a bit of a mess when I died. But looking at what I've been through, I could see why I was. Now I'm going to double down on my guidance to someone I know that has similar circumstances because I understand it with clarity and passion, and I can help them. I can help them not create moments of suffering the way that I had moments of suffering in my life. That's what this is about. It's the lifespan we're living, but it's the lifespan of our eternal journey. It's not a span, it's infinite. It's about tapping into our recall of our eternal self and letting that be something that we reflect out during this journey. That's what a lifespan really is. All right, I think I have to take a break. Do I? At least let me pause to sip. I don't even know what time it is, but I kept you captive with a very, very, very long run-on sentence. So let's punctuate the sentence. Go get a cup of coffee, mingle, meet each other, and we'll come back in 10 minutes. We can all breathe. Longest run-on sentence in the history of humankind. I guess your guides had a very specific agenda because, wow, I was unstoppable. So thanks for coming back. But I want to kick off this half with, first let me just mention a couple of things, but I also want to share a story. I did launch a new website, and I forget to tell everybody, it's a few months old. It's the thing is, we have both of them running consecutively. The Answers Unlimited has all of my old content, which is 1,000 pages, literally. And the new one, KarenGarvey.com, has just the bare essentials. So little by little, we're going to be moving some of that core information, especially the essays, over to the new one. But don't get mixed up. We're doing the best we can to maintain both. So the events page isn't as built out on the new page as it is on the old page. You just got to play around a little bit, but we're doing the best we can. So thanks for your patience with that. And the other thing is to save the date. It's a Saturday, September 22nd. It's going to be my next longer event. Together with Debbie Silber, if you saw me do an event with her last November, we had done an event about overcoming betrayal. But this time we're going to be focusing on the topic is going to be relationships. And really every aspect about having, maintaining, and building and magnetizing in better, more meaningful relationships. And part of that is your relationship with yourself. So it'll be a 4 or 5 hour event in Westbury, and save the date. Okay? All right, good.
Happy and 90?
Oh, Happy in 90, thank you. Happy in 90 is my online course where I take you through basically the process of the phases of enlightenment. We strip away everything that you've picked up that's mistruths, and we rebuild the infinite wisdom that you have within so that you can have a happy life. I guarantee, no matter how happy you are when you begin it, you'll be happier when you complete the 90-day program. And if you're not ready for 90, you can do it in segments of 30 days, 60 days, and then 90 days. Because each module is a standalone 1-week module. Together, they just comprise far more topics than the 30 or the 60 would alone. Okay, thanks. Okay, so I got to hear during the break a cool story. Jay,
Sure.
if you can give us the quick
Okay,
version of it.
So a couple of sessions ago when we were here, it wasn't last one, I think it was the one before, we got on this discussion about styrofoam. So
We were talking about living in honor with our planet.
right, and you were saying how like you kind of got a glimpse of 100 years from now and how it's all going to work out with, you know, those of us that are more aware of taking care of the earth. And so the very next day after the styrofoam talk and how it takes 500 years to break down, and the problem is that we can't recycle, we don't recycle it. So that's the hang up. Glass we do, plastic we do. So, you know, even though those things take a very long time to break down, we at least recycle those things. So the next day I'm on my way home from work, I teach, and I was coaching at the time, and the very next day I call in an order at this place near my house called The Good Life. You may have heard of it. It's in Massapequa Park. So I usually don't eat there. I usually don't get takeout there. I usually eat there. So I call in the order and I go to pick it up, and they hand me the bag, and in the bag all I see is styrofoam. And I'm like, damn it, Karen Garvey! So there's like
I just wanted a good meal.
There's nothing but styrofoam in the bag. And I'm like, ah! So I say to the girl, who was probably all of 18 or 19, I love this place. Why are you guys still using styrofoam? And she's like, I'm like, is the owner here? And I was very nice. And she was like, no, he's not here. And I said, well, how about the manager? So she's like, hold on a minute. So she sends the manager back, who's probably in her 20s, and I say, I really love this place. I live up the block, and I really don't want to not come back. I said, but I'm not going to come back if the owner is going to continue to use styrofoam. I was like, do you know it takes 500 years to break down and it's not recyclable? She's like, oh my God, I am so happy that you're like taking the time to say something. She's like, the staff has been on the owner's case for a long time now. Why?
Those 20-somethings.
Yeah. She's like, as to why, you know, as to why he's still using styrofoam. And I said, well, you know, it takes 500 years to break down. I said, listen, I said, I'm upset. I said, I really like coming here. I said, and I live up the block and have a lot of friends and, you know, family who come here. I said, but I'm gonna leave my name and number. I said, because honestly, I can't come back now until you guys, you know, change over to something recyclable. So I left my name and number, and I knew he wasn't gonna call me, and he didn't call me. So I went home and I called my neighbor, who thinks I'm crazy anyway, but they love me, and they're like, no, Jay, really, like, we're into this too, okay, no problem. And then I like texted a friend in the neighborhood who's like a teacher in Massapequa Park, who knows a lot of people. So she was on board. So then what I didn't tell you was, the next day in class, we were teaching this like thing to the kids where it was Project Adventure, where they had to figure it out as a group how to get from planet Earth, which was no longer inhabitable, and we had to do stepping stones to the planet Mars. So I tied in, because it was like 2 days later, I said, you know, so this is what happened to me, guys. I said, you know, and we talked about styrofoam, and we talked about like, hey, everybody's using styrofoam. Why do you think this restaurant used styrofoam? And they were like, because it's cheap. And they were like, can you believe it? And the name of the restaurant's The Good Life. What's that? These are like middle school kids.
Yes, there you go.
Right?
Yes.
So anyway, fast forward to like a week ago. So my family and I were like in town, and I met my cousin, and we were gonna have dinner at this one place, but it ended up closing down. So they were like, hey, why don't we go to The Good Life? And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, all right, listen. Here's
Just
what
don't get
happened.
takeout.
I'm like, let's go across the street and see if they switched over. I doubt it, but it's only been 2 months, so we walk across the street, and I'm like, listen, I live in the neighborhood, and I know last time I was here, you guys were using styrofoam. She goes, nope, we fixed it. Look, we
I love that story. Love that story. Love that story. It's a great story. Yes.
I heard that you find.
I'm eating here because you don't use styrofoam. And that's it. That's what we do here all the time, is that you can't do everything, but there's a thing that you can do. Do the thing that it is that you can do. And don't beat yourself up for the things that you don't do. Do what you can do, and just keep being an ambassador for living in respect and harmony. That's my feeling. Living
and
in
what I learned
honor.
from you though is that you really do have to say it in a nice way. Like you can't be combative about it. Like you can't go in like a you know, I can't think of the right word, but you can't, like gangbusters, you can't go in and be like, oh, I can't believe you guys are like, I was so nice about
Yes.
it. I was like, oh,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
you know, like, I don't know what came over me, but it just,
Yes.
no, usually I'm like a little bit more like, oh, I can't believe you got, you know, like I'm not usually that nice about things that I do. So, but it doesn't work if you're not nice about it.
No.
Yeah.
No. Now, but a few months ago, I don't know if it might have been that night when I was saying how we only get to pull the levers when we vote once, and we don't really have much influence over what happens after we pull those levers in the voting machine or write in the card, but we vote with our dollars. So always remember how powerful your dollars are, and choose to spend your voting dollars where you are supporting what it is that they're doing, focusing on in their practices and so on. Because money does talk, and if people make less money, they're going to respond. That's the bottom line. You know, I don't want to name companies, but there are a few companies, well-known, apparently well-respected companies that I haven't spent one penny with them since the day I told them why I wasn't going to spend another penny with them, for the reason that I noted to them. I'll always keep my eye open and see if they change their practice. But I don't care about convenience, I don't care about hunger, I don't care about how inexpensive something is. If their practices are not aligned with universal truth or living in honor, I don't want to spend my money there. That's the bottom line. And I can't ignore knowledge I have. I might not have all the knowledge, but when I do have knowledge, it's hypocritical of me to dishonor it. And if we all do this, then we will have a more powerful voice. We will have the vote coming back to the people, right? Use a windmill. Let the vote come back to the people. Take the power away from the people that are running the country in ways that are not honoring our planet. That's the bottom line. So vote with your dollar. Just keep voting with your dollar. Okay? All right, good. Thanks for sharing that story. I was so appreciative when you came up and told me during the break. That's such a nice, positive, knocking down of the domino. So it's doable. The other thing I just want to mention is there are people out there that are making some dreadful, dreadful predictions of what the future is going to be like, whether the future is 20 years or 30 years. I've been seeing the future for a lot of years now, and everything I've ever seen has come true, okay? Everything, even the bit of a mess that we're in right now. So I don't see a dire future, so just put that stupid thing out of your head. But I will tell you that if you want to bring the beautiful future that I see to us faster, which I think would be really cool, then do the things to help grab it. Time does not exist. So even though I can predict something and I could say it's 2032 or it's 2047, it's not static. It's ever changing as we change what we think, what we feel, what we believe, and the actions that we take based on what we're thinking and feeling and believing. So if we see something and we're glimpsing at it and we know it's possible and it's starting to form through the projection of our consciousness, then we can, as ambassadors of universal wisdom, we can pull it into us faster by being motivated to do things like this. Every little ripple, every little thing that we do makes the whole. We're making it harder and harder to hide in ego, to hide in greed, to hide in selfishness, to hide in that way of being. It's getting harder and harder and harder to hide. So don't let people hide. I mean, don't let people be like that. Don't let them be out in the open with it. Make it only so that living in honor with one another and the planet and the animal community and the plant community is the only way we choose to live. And that's where our power is. Power is not in politics. Power is in us. The power is in us. Okay? All right, cool. There was something else that I wanted to mention about lifespan, though. I know. This is important. I wrote an essay about it a few months ago, but I think it's worth just mentioning aloud because I think this is one concept that a lot of people don't necessarily understand yet. I talk often about the vehicles for discovery on Earth. You know, there's a reason we leap into these bodies. It's a very well contemplated decision. No one kicks us out of the place where we're all partying and says, get the hell out of here, go run around like mad on that planet. We do it because we are altruistically believing that we're going to have an awesome experience here, and we're going to continue to make the experience for everyone more awesome. We're basically feeling very positive about being able to overcome Earth amnesia and bring universal wisdom to this planet. So it's a good choice. It seems like a good choice at the time. But part of those discoveries is that we have this thing called infancy and childhood and maturation. And that's a discovery tool on Earth that we don't have in the energy realm. In the energy realm, we're all fully mature souls. No one's young, no one's old. I know we like to think old soul. Old soul doesn't really exist as a term. What we describe as an old soul is just an expanded vibration of a consciousness. So an old soul, wise, saying cool things when they're 2 or 3 or 3 months, that's really just their vibrational energy is greater than the vibrational energy of a soul that hasn't expanded yet into that vibration. So it has nothing to do with age, old or young. So when we come to Earth, we have this thing called infancy, and we develop. And it's such an important tool, and there's a reason I wanted to talk about it at least briefly tonight, because there's misunderstandings about how can bad things happen to kids. And I think that gets us confused, because when quote unquote bad things happen to adults, we kind of are getting this creation of reality, the projection of consciousness, you know, you're a composite of everything you've experienced, blah, blah, blah. The universe is knocking on your door to unremember something that you forgot, and you know, all this stuff. We kind of get it, not blaming people, but we kind of get the process. And we also get free will. As an adult, you have permission to look at all the shitty things that happened when you were a kid and start to peel them back. We have permission. We can all do it. Just put your attention to it and get it done, right? So we get that. But what about a kid? What about a kid that's having a horrible, horrible, horrible experience? There's no way we can say that their reality is a composite of what they've experienced since birth, because it's not. It doesn't make any sense. But what children do for us, or the maturation of anything, from a plant to an animal to a child, the maturation process gives the adult community an opportunity to see the reflection of their choices. Because when we have to take care of something and bring it from infancy, bring it from dependency to independency, what we do and what we don't do will determine how it grows, or how it caves, or how it shrivels. So the purpose of the maturation process is for those who have already matured, or tried to look at the consequence of their thoughts and actions to a growing population, whether it's plants or animals or children. So when a child is reflecting something that is extremely challenging, the opportunity there is an opportunity of discovery for the adult community around that child. So the adults around that child are creating that child's reality as long as that child is dependent on that adult community. The whole idea is that we're going to grow from 100% dependency, which we are at birth. We're going to grow, and eventually we'll be interdependent, right? Age-appropriate interdependency. And then ultimately we'll get to a certain age and we will be mature and independent, right? That's the idea. By the time we reach the levels of maturation that were intended to be met, we should theoretically be creating our reality by 90%. We're not co-creating it at the level that we were when we were little. At birth, it's 5% you, 95% the community around you. But hopefully by whatever age, let's say 20, maybe it'll be 90% you and 10% the community around you. So what I want you to recognize is that when children are in disharmony, it's an important opportunity to look around at what that child is asking people to remember. Love, fearlessness, beauty, joy, play, imagination. Knowing that we're worthy, knowing that even if we're different, whatever our package for discovery in this lifetime is just as important and beautiful as the next package for discovery. This is the things that we're asking people to remember. And it happens by, does it happen in the immediate family? Yes, the possibility for awakening happens within the immediate family. Does it happen in the extended family, within the community, within if there's a religion or a political system or an education system? The ripples of a child in disharmony are designed to wake up as many people as that event or incident can touch or reach. That's the whole goal. And if a child returns home at a young age, when they get back home, they're like, ah, damn, 3 years, that's it? Come on, send me back. Let me do this over. I want to go for 30. That's not what the feeling is. The feeling is 3 years. Wow. Look at humanity right now. Look at those within my touch point, and look at those within the next level of touch point. Look at those who knew the ones that knew the ones that knew the ones. Look at what they're thinking. What are they feeling? What are they experiencing? How has my death opened them up to a new perspective? What is open now that I can jump into and open even more? How can I take my death and help improve the lives of others, of people who don't remember stuff? Like what matters, what's important, what priorities are significant. And that's what we do. That's what we do. And we all do this. So don't ever think of children as being the manifestors of their own reality. We are conscious projections of what is happening within the adult community that surrounds us.
It's like the yin yang, the double truth. The child, is, if I'm understanding you, is the soul has chosen that reality. But as a human child, it's not choosing that reality.
Yes.
It's at the benefit or non-benefit of those around. But the soul knows it's chosen what may not look easy, nice, or pretty.
Yes. Yes.
The soul's not suffering, but it.
Yes, the soul does not ever suffer. The soul will capitalize on all circumstances to advance knowingness, to advance awakenings, and so on. The one caveat, it's just a matter of language choice. We are not predestined in any regard. There's no predetermination that a child is born may die of cancer at 6, or predetermined that a child will be in a fire at 7. There's no predetermination. Everything is flowing within the power of now. That's why it's so important the way that we interact with children, because we are a composite reflection of what it is that we experience. So one of the things that makes the process of infancy and childhood so beautiful and magnificent, and such a positive possibility for adults, is for some people, the birth of a child, their own or someone else's, or holding a child and seeing limitless possibility in their face, it's the first time in their life they take ownership of their own priorities. All of a sudden they think, I want to give this kid a styrofoam-free life. I care about love. I'm not going to work as much. I'm going to care about nutrition because I'm nursing this baby. All of a sudden, there's a different perspective that can be ignited. Doesn't mean it's always ignited, but the child gives the possibility to the entire adult community for someone to shift from ego to shift to soulfulness. Okay?
Okay, and if the child chooses, well, the way I understand it, or imagine, or feel, or intuit, that if they come in, let's say, with a physical challenge, that part was quote unquote predetermined. That was chosen by the soul.
Yeah. Okay. There's a.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what
All right. Let me. It's actually just almost like a technicality.
Yeah, I want to hear.
What determines the body in which we land is our quest and our innate vibrational energy. Those two partner to create all of the complex opportunities that we land in. If we land in Ghana in 1970, we land in the United States in 2007, we land in a religious community that worships so-and-so, we land here, we land there. It's our quest and our vibrational energy, which we have created by choice, the focus of our own soul throughout our eternal journey. But the thing is, humans love to see us as choosing components of our earthly life, because what we're doing is reflecting the ego. The ego likes to be in control. When we're souls without bodies, we don't give a damn about control. There's no such thing. We don't need to manage everything. We live in surrender and in peace and in infinite knowingness and in beauty and in creation and in expansion. It's all good. Why would I want to control anything? I'm going to surrender to the infinite wisdom of the universe and the power of love to provide me in this human body with a set of experiences and circumstances that allow me to manifest my soul's intention. So that's the line. A lot of times we project our human lens on the eternal. But when you spend a lot of time in the eternal and away from your body, you get to peel away all of the mistruths of these tight little confined boundary limited boxes that we build for ourselves here. In the energy realm, there are no limits. Everything is expanding, infinitely beautiful, and radiating in the vibration of pure love. It's a great place to be. Don't leave this body to get there. Stay in the body and visit like I do. I highly recommend it. Okay, just want to make sure I put that out there, all right? Because the miracle of who you are right now, that's never coming again. So use this miracle to the last possible piece of energy you've got. Take it all the way home, okay? Don't leave before. Yeah.
I mean, obviously the people in this room, we understand that and we know that, but when we're out there in the world, how do we not let other people's egos like project on us? And how do we, you know what I mean? Like if we're again, we function in our little bubble. We all know this in this room, but we go out there and everybody's like projecting their stuff on us, and we're like, I'm trying to function in love and light, and you're like throwing, you're dumping all this water on me, and I can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the byproducts of enlightenment is that your radiant energy changes, and when your radiant energy changes, you have an innate magnetic energy to bring people in who are vibrating higher. But you also have a presence that might not be within you when you are being 100% human and ego. And that presence becomes something that people want to be near or they respect. And when you are in a room or in a circumstance and people respect or value your presence and you're able to communicate with kindness, then you actually get to influence those who are living in ego. Some people might need to just pretend that they're making improvements that make you feel, more comfortable because they want you to be comfortable because they like you. But for other people, they leave. They leave the company, they leave the neighborhood, they leave your family. So the magnetic energy that you are is doing so much of this work for you. Okay? I do think that there's a fine line between infusing your radiant energy and your wisdom in a place that has a much lower vibrational energy versus leaving a place whose radiant energy or organizational radiant energy is so low that it's not tenable for you to be able to succeed within that. So there is a fine line. Sometimes you want to do the infusion, but sometimes you want to say, you know what? There's no amount of infusion that I can really do here to perk this group up anytime soon. So really, you gotta take care of yourself and take your high vibrational energy and put it somewhere where the ripples can be carried and that they can extend to another shore. If you drop your beautiful ripples into a dead, black, murky hole, what's gonna happen? And then you go, and you're like, all right, well, I gotta be positive. Let me go drop some more ripples in there. Well, you're going to spend a lot of energy building a big black hole in a swamp. So make sure that at least your ripple can move around a little or get out, because we could use high vibrational energy in a lot of places. Okay? All right, but that was a great question. And the other part of it too is I see this with coaching a lot. A lot of times I'm coaching people on how to communicate, right? And I get both sides of the conversation all the time, even if I'm only coaching one person. And it becomes very, very apparent when I'm coaching more than one person or a group. But we come to each conversation with an agenda which is based on our history. So our form of communication is not necessarily always going to be one that's filled with respect or bringing about a cooperative understanding. What I recognize is that I'm not kind because I pretend to be kind. I am kind. So I'm actually, even if someone pissed me off, I still want to be kind in an interaction with them. Because whatever made them be so mean, they went through hell to get that mean. Right? Why do I want to contribute to the hell that they're already living in? Why not give a dose of possibility instead? Which means talking calmly, using conversations about how things might make you feel, not what they're doing, but how they make you feel. Not being critical. I don't care who you are. No one wants to be criticized. That's the bottom line. There's no way to deliver you suck in a nice way. It just can't be done. So don't do it. Find another way. There are ways to make suggestions without telling people that they're not good or not likable or not talented or whatever. So you just learn to choose language that helps somebody feel good about who they are. I guarantee the nastier somebody is, the more they have been beaten up in life. So they're the ones that need your kindness and your love far more than the ones that are already being kind. So just always remember that. Be the little bit of a lift for them, and you can still get to the result that it is that you want. Somebody raised their hand over here. Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, but let's just say you're sharing your feelings with someone. Like for me, it's just a recent work situation where I've never felt so unsupported in 23 years of teaching as I did a week ago with a situation. So I actually told an administrator for the first time probably in 23 years, I do not feel supported by you. And I said it like that. I didn't say it in a mean way, but that's still not a kind thing to say, but I needed to say that for me, to get it off my chest.
I totally get that. I totally
So-
get that. Yeah, and sometimes it really is about choosing yourself first when you've tried other methods.
Because that's not something anybody wants to hear.
My approach is that what I usually do is if someone is behaving in a way that's not coming from a source of love, is because I'm intuitive, but I think most people in this room can do it, is I try to determine what is making that person feel disempowered. So in that situation, my conversation would be, listen, you've been in this role for 30 years. There have been so many changes in administration, in mandates, in rules. You have been shackled. You had so much more power to live in an altruistic, free, and creative environment 30 years ago. It's got to be so hard to be you. And I know things are litigious, and I know things are so rules-oriented now. But I think that it's always important, too, to find a lane within all those rules to make sure that the people that you're supporting also feel supported. Number one is the community of children, and number two is those who are so passionately educating the children. That's how I would have approached it. So immediately I'm taking the criticism away from them, and I'm saying, what you've been through is really horrible, and I feel bad for you. But don't forget that if you only align with what's difficult, you're forgetting what's important. And that's that. So there's always an approach of helping people to identify that there's a reason and a justifiable reason for why they're being non-supportive or irritating or mean or whatever. And that's just my approach. And you know what? It's always true. When people run around and say this and that and this and that, it's coming from a place of where did they lose their power? Where do they have no voice? What was taken away from them? Who is making the rules in their life? What are they afraid of? They're not coming from a place of, I feel really good. I love my job. Because they're not allowed, because someone else has told them that they can't be that way. I do see, public school education, it can, will, and should implode. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And what I love is how visibly it is a mess. And the example is the opt-out of parents for the Common Core testing. I was laughing when I heard that New York State is going to impose financial punishments to school districts that don't meet the 95% federal mandate for the taking of the Common Core test. I was like, yes, yes, yes. Bring it on, because you are giving the power back to the people. There's only so much you can slap people around, squash them, tell them they have no voice. You crossed a line here, and things are not going to look good for you soon. But that's what we have to do. We're voting with our decision about whether or not to send our kids to take the test. So like I said, you pull a lever in November, but that doesn't determine everyone that's going to make the decisions for everything that happens to you in your life. So you have to vote in ways that you can vote. That's how we get our power back. So it will implode, and this is an example of how it will implode. Just the way they have removed most of the connection between reviewing or ranking teachers based on the assessment tests. We're the ones that spoke up. We're the ones that got that reversed. So eventually people will understand that you can't live as autocrats. We're a democratic society for a reason, and that means if you push people and you shove them too much, we will raise our voices in whatever way we can. So my feeling is keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, because then we're going to have people take action that have been silent for so many years. I don't think anything pisses me off more than somebody said, well, that's the way it is. Really? All right, go tell the colonists to tell that to the British, okay? Well, that's the way it is. Just pay the tax and go home and bring the tea to your kids, okay? Now, No. We have to use our voice in every way we can. And I also recognize that when we do use our voice, that there are going to be levels of how we voice our concerns or our ideas. And in that spectrum of how we voice our opinion, there are going to be those that veer toward unkindness, and there are going to be those that veer toward kindness. For you, it's always a matter of choice. How can you express your displeasure in a way that's a measure of who you want to be? Because in that spectrum, you can go any way. All right? And I know that there's always a peaceful path to make your voices heard, which is why I talk so much about the power of the dollar. You know, a lot of people aren't willing to sacrifice a little bit of convenience or a little bit of this or a little bit of that until the push gets so great that they are willing to vote with their dollar. But if you vote with your dollar and you encourage other people to vote with their dollar, that's what will make change. That's how we will get back to living within an environment that is cooperative. But all the ripples that we're putting into the waters of humanity now, and we have been for 10, 20 years, it is going to culminate into something tangible in the year 2020. You know, maybe a little before, maybe a little after, but within that period of time, we're going to see the tangible positive results of what it is that we're doing. So don't think any of this is futile. You know, being an ambassador for universal truth is never futile. And I read it I think on my own Piece It Together page the other day. Love always wins. Love always wins. I remember when my family got back from seeing I think it was the 8th Harry Potter, or reading the 8th book. They were all like, they were so nervous about what the outcome of the book would be because of me. Like, is this going to have a good ending that's based on universal wisdom? I've been teaching that Harry Potter is universal truth personified in fiction or nonfiction, whatever you want to call it. I've been saying this for years. So the kids were like, oh my God, I hope this thing ends well. Because mommy's going to be devastated if it doesn't. And, you know, luckily, love always wins. It always wins. Love always wins. Just keep remembering, love always wins. The reason it always wins is because the only thing that exists is love. Love is a vibration. Anything that is not joyful or positive is the absence of love. So how could love not always win? It's the only thing that exists. Okay? All right, good. Got that? What always wins?
Love!
Yeah! All right, I think, wow, I took us right up to the 9 o'clock hour, and I read no one tonight. Apparently I was on a mission, so I'm not even going to pretend that I'm going to read you next month, because as I told you, we'll be making discoveries in July and in August. But if you remind me in September, I promise I'll read you then. But even during making discoveries, if you did attend or view the video of the one I did, I do make sure I have very clear periods to ask questions. So you can ask questions in person, you can ask questions online, and so when I'm answering questions, I'm opening up to your guides. It'll always be relevant for everybody in the room, but you will get your questions answered. You know, it's fun to see how that works. After making discoveries, I'm going to tell you, every single person in the room came up and said, not only did I get my question answered, but I got 9 questions answered, because that's just the way that it works. I attune to whatever is going on in the room. I don't have an agenda. I'm here for you. I am your conduit. So I will answer your questions one way or another, even at those 2 events. Thanks for being here, everybody. I really appreciate it.